Today, I'm here with my longtime friend, Robin Pollack, and her amazing home where she is a master gardener, and she is going to tell us all about how she got to this house, how they got to the property, and give us a wonderful tour of all her fabulous gardening tips, plants, and just history. Rob, I'm so glad that I'm here today doing this. So, start and tell everybody how you found this house, how long you've been here.
Well, thank you for having me, and my name is Robin Pollack, and I am a North Fulton Master Gardener. Thank you for joining me today for our virtual first annual fall garden tour. And I'm excited to share my garden with you because we have worked on it for 25 years. When I moved into this home, it was 25 years ago, and the home is 75 years old. So it had quite a few mature plants, and because I love gardening, we've enhanced it through the years. So please come with me and let's go on our first annual garden tour. As you see at the entrance, we still have some of our late summer plants that are doing very well. So we are not going to change them until the first frost. First frost usually occurs in Atlanta around November 15th. So we have another good month of beautiful late summer flowers. As you might notice, we have some very large trees. These trees were planted in 1950. We have some vitex, we have some hollies, we have all kinds of older shrubs and trees that have survived 75 years in this garden.
What was the garden like before?
Well, the garden was very simple and very natural. But I like to call this first section of my garden the orchard because we have fruit trees, we have a lovely apricot tree, a fig tree, and many natives. So we call this area the orchard because of the fruit trees. And on this side, we have pear trees and apple trees. We also have some wonderful trees that we have put in and laurels. And in between them, I have cannas, forsythia, grasses, ferns, and all kinds of native plants. We also, in the front, have the first trees of the fall, the redbud. As the swamp daisies disappear, you will see these gorgeous red-tipped dogwood coming out, with the stems are bright red. But it's really a very comfortable place with a fig tree as the center feature.
By the way, there will be a lot of interesting art and also things that enhance the property, let's put it that way. And there's history with that as well. And we will get to all the birdhouses that are here as well.
So the bench was done by a famous artist, and it was called a rainbow bench. And I have put it in my garden and tried to bring it front and center so that you can sit in it and view the garden. And it has become a very popular spot to just sit and meditate. If you follow me, let's look at some of the plant material. I would love for you to come visit my yard when this pandemic is over. But if you notice, we still have a few figs on the tree, and my dad happens to be at the bottom of the tree because figs were his favorite fruit. So when I come up here, I visit my father. Part of my garden is very natural and wild. I like to call the way I tend my garden controlled chaos. So within the many plant materials, there are reasons to put plants in certain places. Follow me and we're going to move to the next section of my garden called the Woodlands.
Say something about that.
But can you move my golf cart out of the way? You might notice that there's a wonderful blue sculpture up in the front yard. This sculpture originally hung over my front door.
Wait, what do I do?
It is an ode to Frank Stella.
Just move it.
Just push. And it is growing out of the ground. And I love to think that I have all of the elements. I have water, and it is very soothing to look at and relaxing. So please enjoy the sculpture as you come into the yard.
We'll leave it up
Now
there.
let's go look at the second section, which is the Woodlands. We enter through a gate, and inside the gate is the driveway to my house. As you might notice, there is some wonderful ginger that is very fragrant, as well as cannas and other plant material. This ginger is very fragrant, and the bulb is a ginger bulb. So please enjoy, and I wish you were here to smell the fragrance. We're entering the Woodlands through an arbor, and the arbor has grapevines on it, and it has forsythia. I call this the Woodlands because when we moved in here, it was completely woods. As you might notice, it is an overlook of birdhouses, so that it is the first thing that you see. We've been on several garden tours through the years, and you might notice I have my garden tour tree. We were on the Botanical Garden tour. We were on the High Museum garden tour, the GPPA, as well as several more. But the one thing that I really have enjoyed is becoming a National Wildlife Certified Habitat. And in order to become a habitat, you need to provide a place for food, shelter, home, and a place to raise your young. So my berries on my trees are the food, the birdhouses are the shelter, and water is all around, as well as in a bird bath that I have, and a place to raise your young in some of the larger condo birdhouses, or maybe you just have a single.
We love the condo birdhouses.
Now you notice that these ferns that I'm standing under are native. They are called Mariana Maidenhair ferns. I started with 6, and this is what Mother Nature has done. So the right plant in the right place will give you all you need from her. You see also, I have another little bench. I like vignettes so you can sit and you can look at the beauty around and you can really enjoy nature and wildlife.
There's
As
so
we
many
come down
little
the
things,
path,
Rob, that like you can hardly, there's so many things. You can hardly see them all. They're like tucked away.
we also have a water source down here with a bird bath. I'm constantly improving my path, adding stones and plant material. This is a bird bath by an artist named Richard Jacobus, and the birds love it. Come on through. The woodland path is very different. We have little places for you to sit, iliagnas for you to have to crouch down and go under.
So it's a little exercise thing.
As well as mushrooms growing in the ground after this wonderful rain that we've had. You can get lost in the woodlands for hours. There's so much to see. I've also used the excess plant material and I have chipped it, and the mulch on these paths are the chippings of the things that I have taken out.
So once again, everything you use is recyclable, sustainable, everything is organic.
I am a big recycler, and yes, everything is organic. And I don't know where that tree came from, but
Careful.
this will be the next recycled piece of
Came
bark.
from the storm, for sure.
So as you're coming out of the upper woodlands, we're coming down to the lower woodlands. We do have a wonderful, wonderful bench up here that you can kind of see out and over the overlook. If you'd like to come up here and see what wonderful things are you can look at from the woodlands. Oh, there's the house. So we like to sit on this meditation bench and look out at the plant material and the beautiful wildlife. Originally, when we moved in, this was all woods. And at that time, there was a pine beetle blight that was getting a lot of pine trees. So we had to come in, take out the pine tree, and so it didn't contaminate other pine trees. And the bench at the bottom is an ode to the original tree. Let's go down and look at it. Any questions?
Well, I like the whole sustainable thing. And how were you able to get all these certifications?
Well, you have to apply for them, and you have to have an environment that sustains them.
Right.
If you'll come down here, you'll see there's a dry creek bed. And this is the area where the very, very first tree was taken out. And so when I came down to take it out, I looked around and there was this wonderful amphitheater that the original owners in 1950 had put in. Stoned terraces and a dry creek bed that during the heavy time of rain will fill with water. But as you notice, I've created paths going up to the driveway, another path going around to the other side, and one straight up the middle. A lot of these hydrangeas and dogwood were here, and as you see, the mahonia on the hill are my weed on the woodland property. So I love it because it provides a little bit of privacy, and since they are stickery and have sharp points, it keeps things out that we don't want in.
Why did they had they built the amphitheater? Do you know?
I think it was a flower garden because it was terraced with beautiful flowers and very nice natural native plants.
Right.
You have the magnolias, the all kinds of acuba, azaleas, and they have been here for over 50 years. So let's come back and we'll take the other way around the path of the lower woodlands.
Let's also hear a little bit what it takes to become a master gardener.
Well, a master gardener is a designation that you apply to become, and we are the eyes and ears on the ground of the University of Georgia's County Extension Program.
Oh, good.
So when you are calling the extension office, you're usually talking to a master gardener. And it is up to us to help you grow your garden, and if you have any problems or questions, to answer them for you. Because our goal is to help you become a better gardener. So the azaleas are on the hill here, and there is a covert that runs under our driveway on down to the Chattahoochee on a very rainy day. Now, we also have a pet cemetery in the Woodlands. After all, after 25 years, you've lost a few pets here and there. So in this area, I have a cat, a fish,
See?
and several tombstones
Left from
pets,
the original owners, too.
of pets that we have had and some of the original people had.
Which makes a nice sanctuary for them.
It does. If you look up the driveway, you'll see all the native plant material and the recycled plant material that I have moved around to make a nice full driveway entrance. So that as you come down to the driveway, you see another art sculpture to let you know that there's something beyond. So the first view you have of the house is really once you get to the bottom of the hill. And the house was built in 1952 by an architect named Finch and Barnes, who later became an architect commercially and joined with Alexander to become FabRep. They only did 2 homes, and then they became commercial architects. But I feel very blessed and grateful that we have this wonderful home to be stewards of for the time that we're here, as well as the grounds, and that I am preserving it for the next person to come in. There have only been 2 other owners of the property, so I feel like I'm very lucky and privileged to have this property to take care of.
And I think the property appreciates that you take care of it.
Thank you. And here we have a sculpture that is horizontal in nature, and it is done by a New Orleans artist named David Bordering. And it was recently acquired, and I think it fits the environment quite well. And as you walk around it, you see that it has interest in many different ways. As you see, ferns, azaleas, cephalotaxis are all very happy here on my property together. Now I'd like you to come over to the side, and I want to show you a surprise by the front door. You might hear the water sounds as you come closer, and as you lean over, this is the first glimpse of what's in store for you. Quite a lot of koi in this pond.
And big ones.
And very large. They live to about 125 years old, so you must put them in your will. But this is my experiment, and the fish and the plants are all very, very happy. If you look up at the top, you see I have a little area where I come out in the afternoon, have cocktails, and look at the property.
Always a good
Let's
idea.
go this way. This is mainly the front. We're on almost 6 acres here, so most of it is developed. And as I said earlier, I have quite a few vignettes to sit and meditate and look at the gardens. Let's come around to the side and we'll go into the backyard.
Which is a whole other
And the backyard
surprise.
is nothing like the front yard. In the front yard, we have woodlands. In the backyard, there was originally a lake there and quite a few wildlife. You notice the grasses in the front are getting ready to fade, and they'll be back next year.
Right. It's still very lush. And we've had
Still
this
lush,
big
and we're in the
rain,
middle
so-
of fall.
Right.
So they're beginning to lose their leaves, but it's beautiful. Now
Yeah.
you might notice another sculpture here. This is called Redbird. Redbird protects my property and looks after us if there's any problems. So Redbird has been with me now for 25 years.
And has been in different locations.
He has been. And if you'll come around to the side, you see that there's quite a lot of plant material. And we're coming into the side of my property where the greenhouse is. The greenhouse gets very full in the winter. Right now, we're starting to move things into the greenhouse. But if you come here in another month, you won't see any space on the floor because it will be completely full. So now we're in the backyard, the side of the house, and a pizza oven.
Always a nice touch.
And of course, a wonderful place to relax.
And more birdhouses.
And come on down to the patio where we have a lovely pool and places to relax. You might notice on my lemon and lime trees are absolutely full of lemons and limes. I'd like to pick them this afternoon. Maybe we'll make a key lime pie. Maybe we'll make a margarita. Who knows? Come on down. So the backyard is where we live most of our time. And as you see, this is a very Frank Lloyd Wright house, and the architects who originally did it were proteges of Frank Lloyd Wright. So we lived in here 20 years until we did a renovation. And when we did the renovation, we used Jim Choate as our architect, who has done the Botanical Garden and many other modern places, as well as John Howard for some of the hardscapes and landscaping. The sculpture you're looking at here is done by a 93-year-old woman. Her name is Lynn Emery, and it is a kinetic sculpture, and she is the mother of kinetic sculptures and was alive and friends with Andy Warhol and Matisse and Picasso and all kinds of people. She lives in New York, but her sculptures are shown throughout the world and in many gardens and museums around the world. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to acquire one of her pieces, and at 93 years old, not too bad.
Not too bad.
So come on, we have lots more to see. I'd like to take you down to my vegetable garden. I teach vegetable gardening both spring and fall with the Master Gardeners at a place called Farm Chastain. The classes are free and they are now virtually online. If you would like to go to YouTube or Facebook and look up North Fulton Master Gardeners, you will see 13 YouTubes that I have done for the Master Gardener classes since we can't be in person today. So come on down. I just finished one on gardening, vegetable
and you were
gardening.
doing them all during the summer too, so
and we go
definitely
from spring to fall.
Yep.
And right now, my fall vegetable garden is just coming into fruition. The most important thing I like to plant in the fall are lettuces. Here you will see lettuce, Swiss chard, kale, and lots of arugula. We have romaine lettuce, red and green, and I try to divide my plant material into my 4 beds. In this garden, I have lacinato kale, otherwise known as dinosaur kale. We have cabbage, we have parsley, and I even have these red bull's blood beets, which are delicious. Parsley is another winter vegetable or herb that I grow.
And in the summer and the spring, it looks entirely different here.
We just took out our summer garden and are now just beginning our fall garden. So I've learned through the years that I'm better off planting my herbs in pots because they like to take over the garden. The red flowers that you see here are called pineapple sage. They're great pollinators. The bees love them, the butterflies love them, and they are deciduous. So once the first frost comes, they will go away and come back next season with a vengeance. So I always like to have something blooming in my garden all season long. You notice in the pots I have sage, I have cilantro, I have all kinds of herbs that we use all season long. Also, it just keeps coming. We have mustard greens, mustard, some bok choy, broccoli down the middle, red cabbage, green cabbage, and kale. So you see, I'm very proud of my vegetable gardening, and we eat out of it every night.
I was going to say, I've been a recipient of it.
And all my friends get to come over and eat. We
And
also have...
And take home party favors, too.
Of course. We also have Brussels sprouts and broccoli and all kinds of yummy, wonderful greens.
Will you tell everyone what you grow in the spring, typically, because it looks so different
Well,
then.
in the summer and spring, we plant tomatoes and squash and all kinds of summer vegetables. And once we get into the fall, they will not stand the frost. So we call them tender vegetables. Lettuces are semi-hardy, which means they can stand a light frost. But the vegetables such as the mustard greens and the broccoli and the kale and the cabbage can all withstand a hard frost. So come on around and I'll show you how I get my vegetables up here. This is a little path that I use to drive my golf cart around to the side and bring my vegetables into the garden. You notice that I have more ginger that has been transplanted and recycled growing down my hill. They happen to be a shade flower and one of the few flowers that is a late fall bloom.
And a lot of bamboo.
And bamboo, of course, was here and never stops. We also have some sun hydrangeas that are the end of the season. These are called tardiva, and they are panicles, and they are happening in August and September, so they are fading their blooms as we speak. But this path is wonderful because I can bring my plant material to my garden without having to carry it down.
Yes.
Now, around here, it takes a village. So you might notice as you come around that I have a birdhouse village. And my birdhouse village is my pride and joy because around 5 o'clock, it's a runway around here, and each one of the birdhouses have an occupant or more living in it. I also have birdhouses, butterfly houses, and on the tree, I even have a bat house because I have lots and lots of bats that fly around the lake eating mosquitoes and such.
Good thing.
So you see we had an overlook at the front. We have the village down here. And as you notice, they all connect. So let's see what's happening down towards the lake.
So this particular year, a lot of people have been gardening, which never had the time to do it before. So,
And that is part of the beauty of being home. Gardens have never looked better. I taught victory gardening this summer because victory gardens are things that people put in when they have time on their hands, when there are problems in the world. Most of the victory gardens started during World War I and World War II to help feed the troops and take and have homeowners have their source of food so that we could send it, the commercial food, to the troops. And because of that, You just need to put in the things that you like to eat in a victory garden and support. This is slippery, so be careful.
Okay.
And support the pandemic. Now, coming on down here to another water garden. When I was putting in my original water garden, I needed a place to hold my fish. So we put in this water garden along with a stone bench, along with a waterfall. And by the way, these leaves that the waterfall is in came out of the water garden, and I teach a class in making cement leaves from the leaves in your garden.
So you can see the water coming through this cement leaf here, which was in the garden originally.
So talk about the ultimate recycle. We have a end of summer leaf that we cast in cement, and it can last forever. So you see that there are lots and lots of places for meditation, sitting, and just being one with nature. You might notice that this is a 75-year-old ginkgo tree ahead. It turns lemon yellow right before it's ready to drop its leaves. So I, as an artist, use the ginkgo leaves in many of my things because they're so beautiful, and it was one of the 7 original trees in the Garden of Eden along with the fig tree.
And down.
You okay?
Yeah.
Like I said.
Yeah, right. I think
So
it's the
carefully, let's come down. Some of the steps are a little slippery,
boots. You be careful.
and I would recommend walking on the side.
On the grass. Daniel, for
And
sure.
as you see, a lot of these birdhouses are very different. Some of them have been underwater with the wood for many, many years. Others I've collected in California, Sea Rock City. Made a few birdhouses that are made of stone, and we teach birdhouse making with the Master Gardeners also when the world is back to normal.
Hopefully soon. Although this has done a lot for gardening, no doubt
It
about
really has. So if you come on down, you'll see that the lake is a little red because we had a big storm last night, but
I'm okay.
are y'all okay?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm on the grass. The boots are slippery.
And when you come down here, it's a whole nother world. We have lots and lots of native animals that live in the area. As a matter of fact, the property next door is completely empty, except for the fox and the deer and all other turtles that come down here to their watering hole every single day. Originally, this was all underwater, and I brought some of my plant material down here, and you notice that it is such fertile ground that these things grow like crazy. We did have a canoe, and
Yes.
we still have it so that we can get in there and clean up some of the things that clog up our drain.
They used to have a paddle boat too, once upon a time.
So this is going to become our secondary greenhouse because when the winter comes, we certainly have lots of plants to bring inside. This is another birdhouse, and it likes to be 18 feet high, and it is a purple martin birdhouse. So we do get a lot of birds finding their homes depending on where the birdhouses are located.
So let's talk a little bit about the lake, because I know it used to be
So the
a lake.
lake's name is Tara Lee Lake, and it was 40 feet high. And a couple of years ago, they are concerned about earthen dams in urban settings. So they asked us to lower the lake because we are now an urban setting and they don't want it to collapse or break and flood the area. And neither do I.
Yes.
So let's go on the back side, and you can see that we have transplanted lots and lots of plants. And you get a different point of view. I've added all the stone walls, all the steps, so that we have access to the whole property. When I first moved in, there was one sidewalk from the house straight down to the lake, which wasn't very user-friendly.
No.
So through the years, we have pruned, we have built stone walls, we have terraced, and now we have all this beautiful property that we can visit. So the last part of this little tour is coming up through our spring woodlands. In the first sign of spring in March, this woodlands becomes alive. Lots of ephemerals, lots of hyacinths, lots of little spring flowers that give you the clue that spring is on the way. I'd like to have everything connect, so you might notice that some of these steps create paths that go back and forth, and usually you end up back where you started. So once we come up this spring walk, you see we are back at the water garden, and we can sit and rest. And as we finish this tour, I'd like to take you on the rest of the golf cart path. As you see, it comes around. And then we have one last part here, which was the original grape arbor on the property. When we moved in, they were growing grapes back here. But then the trees got too big and shaded it out. Look at this magnificent beautyberry. The birds love the berries on this plant. But if you'll come in here, you'll see the original old vine that we created a swing and arbor to. So originally, this was the vine on the property. Now it's a wonderful retreat.
It's beautiful back here.
Thank you. So I hope you've enjoyed our virtual tour today, that you've learned a little something, and that you will enjoy this tape. If you liked it, please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you had a great day.
Thank you, Robin. We appreciate it, and I know all these people that are very interested in gardening as well probably learned a lot. I know there's a lot more to learn, but now there are places for them to do that. So thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Sharon.